Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream, we build Django apps. And I'm going to continue on my homeschool application and work on PDF reports tonight, building PDFs for customers and reports that they need to finish their school year in the homeschool application that I'm building. So that's what we're going to be working on. Before I get into that, though, I want to say thank you to patrons that I've got. You can join those patrons at patreon.com/mblehman and help support me financially. But I want to say thank you to Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Patrick, Eric, Fred, Philip, Miguel, Shivan, and Monty. Appreciate your contributions. All right, let's get into what we're going to do. I have a two-pronged approach this evening. So we've been working on PDFs, and we've got this new reports section where we're going to build PDF reports that we're eventually trying to put into a zip archive. So when the idea is when a customer in my homeschool application finishes their school year, they can download this bundle that'll have the full history that they can share with their local government or whoever, just keep for their record keeping purposes, whatever, and track what happened in their school year. This is requested by my spouse, who's my customer. It's also been requested by other users who have said, I need to prove things to my government that I am, in fact, educating my kids appropriately. And so this is a pretty important feature, kind of closing off the life cycle for the school year. And we're going to work through that. So what we're really doing is repackaging some pages that exist in the application. The application has some reports, and let's take a look at those really quickly. And what we need to do is generate those reports into PDFs. So we're going to open up this and take a look at the application. So get back into the app. And so there's this report section in the app. And I've already got this feature flag turned on, so you can see this UI is present, and we're going to be able to eventually, like the purpose of what we're building out is to make this create bundle button work. We went through this on a previous stream, so I'm not going to go over this part again. But what is the content of that bundle? The content of that bundle is a lot of the stuff you see here. So if somebody is creating a bundle for their school year, it's going to include all of their kids for that school year. And so we're going to generate a few different types of reports. And I have not even started the process of making a PDF report, so we're going to do that. I think the easiest one to maybe begin with is perhaps the resource report here. And so we need to figure out a couple things. So let me back up. What's my plan? There is already a view. And last stream, we made that view build a zip archive that will actually download a properly named zip archive that includes like a file name, and will download to your computer and can contain content. So we know how to populate the zip archive, but we don't have the PDF content in there yet. But it would be really annoying, in my opinion, if our process for working on these PDFs was build a PDF and put it in the zip archive and click this button and download it and extract it and blah, that concept is going to be frustrating. So instead, what I'm going to do is take advantage of some custom UI that I've built for myself as the primary administrator, which I call my Office dashboard. And this Office dashboard has just a couple of tools in it right now, but we're going to add a new section here. And this new section will be called PDFs. And on that page, what I want to do is put a little tiny form that can build whatever PDF report I want. So if I provide an ID for whatever the report is and where the data should pull from, it will generate that PDF that I want, and then we can inspect that. So we can get a very interactive visual cycle here. That's the goal. And then the idea after that is like, so once that admin tooling is built to see the PDF, and once we've got it in the right shape, then we can take the code or the function that we're going to generate from the process and insert it into this bundle code. So we can start to bake in the individual PDFs into the total archive. So that's kind of the two-pronged approach. So the first approach is to get these PDFs right. We're going to use something called Wheezy Print, which I don't have a lot of experience with, so we're going to kind of learn some stuff together. It's supposed to be like HTML rendering that gets transformed into PDF, so hopefully it won't be too difficult. But that's going to be the process. So let's start here and see if we can flesh out this page and start to make this Office dashboard a little bit more robust with what we need. I'm going to go over to my code, and I'm going to bring up the dashboard. I don't remember where it is, so I think it's in the core application. in the URLs there. So am I right? Yeah. Nope, I'm not right. This is the regular dashboard. So where is Office dashboard? Office dashboard. Ah, I have it right at the root. Oh, that's fun. Okay. So there is a separate set of URLs for the Office dashboard, and we're going to do that. So let's go over there. And the nice part about this area of the application is because this is just tooling for me, I just need to make sure that it doesn't break the web application, which is not a really hard thing to do. And I don't need to write a lot of unit tests to prove that this is super accurate or anything like that. It's really meant for my purposes. And I think that's kind of the goal. And in fact, I've been dealing with a similar challenge at work. It's granted, though, it's a much more complicated distributed system with lots of pieces that have to all aggregate. And the question of how do you make a user interface that is functional for the people that have to run the service? My homeschool application is only run by me, so there are sometimes tools that I need. And how do I do that at like an efficient way so I'm not wasting my time building out some whiz-bang admin UI and but still getting my work done? So there's a balance to walk there. And so that's what we're trying to deal with right now. So let's go over to the Office dashboard URLs and see if we can add something there. That was not the right location. Sorry, y'all. Click the wrong thing. Office dashboard URLs. That's where we want to go. And I should add that I see some of you in the chat. You're welcome to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. This is not meant to be a unidirectional conversation, although I'm happy for it to be. I don't mind talking through my development processes, but if you have questions, I will gladly answer them, or do my best to answer them, I should say. Can't always guarantee a perfect response, but I will try. Let's see, where are we? We need to have a place to do PDFs. So I don't necessarily want this Office dashboard and this core app. So I'm in the Django core app right now of my project. I don't want it to be the hub of all information. So anytime I want to do an admin tool, I don't necessarily want to write the code that uses it in this core app. So I'm going to decide to put my view in a separate place for this project. And that, where's that going to go? That's a good question. So let's just kind of sketch it out and see what it should be. So let's say that our first path is going to be why do I have an onboarding link in here? It's been a long time. Oh, okay, never mind. Not going to get into that. So let's do this. This is going to be path of generate PDFs. That's kind of the route that we want to end up at. And we're going to link to, maybe we don't even need to call it that. Let's call it something even simpler. We'll just call it PDFs. And this will be the PDFs dashboard. Why not? And the reason I'm doing this is because PDFs are kind of a pain to work with. Like, we could generate them with a management command and like generate a PDF file and then look at it that way, but there's really no perfect way to do this. But we're going to try. And we can call this the PDFs dashboard. Okay, so now we have a home for this, but we don't actually have a view yet. So let's go ahead and import this view that doesn't exist yet. So from reports, nope, we need to say homeschool reports dot views import PDFs dashboard. My editor should notice that I don't actually have that view yet, so we need to go over to that area and add this new view. So under the reports views, let's come to, where should we put this? I guess this is kind of admin tooling. there'll be some really important controls that we want to add on here. So this is probably something that we should discuss, and to make sure that no one, not some random person, can't access this. So I probably also want to bring up the core views and look at boom or something, and use, this is the decorator that we're going to need. But let's put this right at the top, so we know like admin stuff is right there, and then the actual client stuff, the user stuff, is below that. So we'll drop a new view here, and I'm just going to sketch out what I think it needs to be. This is going to be PDF's dashboard. It's going to take a request. It will need to return a response. So we're going to render, what should we call this? Well, render needs to also take a request, and it needs to take a template name. That should be in the reports directory, and well, I guess I could just call it PDF's dashboard. That's fine, because it's not something that I'm going to give users a dashboard to do their PDFs. They've got a different route to get to this stuff. And context. There's no context yet, but we'll drop a context right here. I have a feeling that MyPy is going to complain because it's not going to have any type information. Yeah, okay. So we'll say shut up MyPy, and then we need this thing. We need this decorator from admin. That should go right there. And then we need render. Render, where'd you go? From shortcuts. So we've got shortcuts, and then we'll put in render. Okay, so let's go to the dashboard, the actual Office dashboard. So I'm sure there's an Office dashboard somewhere. Here it is. And this is that page you just saw. So it should look familiar. There's not a lot of styling on this. Again, this is not about like being fancy. This is about being functional enough to get around. So I still need like my Chrome up here to be able to navigate to the right pages. And you know, I suppose I can navigate to other pages back into the app. So I use the base template. That's why it looks this way. And then I have some links in there that's going to take us off to other places. So we've got our links, and we need to add in a new tools page. So let's do that. I guess we can take this, and we'll just steal this. And if I'm putting it alphabetically, sure, why not? So this should be PDF's dashboard. And then we'll change inside of here and say reports PDF's dashboard. So that much should work. We can refresh and find out. Just refresh my chat window. It's not the thing I meant to refresh. Nope. What'd I name it? Must have named it wrong. Oh, it's in the Office. Not reports. It's in the Office namespace. So now we've got a new link. But if we click on this link, it's going to blow up, right? Because we haven't actually made this template yet. No surprise. So let's go to a simple page. Maybe this social image page has enough. Probably has just enough as well that we can use and copy this stuff. And then we'll go back to the report section and look at the progress report as a starting point. Go up a directory, go to create a new file called PDF's dashboard, and then paste all that content in. And we'll give this the new title of PDF's dashboard. That's going to be in the actual tab title. And then we've got this other stuff. Well, let's just go to there for now, like one step at a time. So I'm using this social image thing is stuff that I'm using that I like to take screenshots of this and really create brand images that are the right size for stuff. That's not really important. We don't really need this. So what we need on this page is what? We need a form. The form is going to be our first report. And so this will be pretty dumb in terms of what we actually want to put in here. So let's start. Let's get rid of the Office dashboard. We're done with that. We actually don't even need, we don't need any of this stuff in that is in main. We just need this main block. So now we've got this totally empty thing. I guess we can we can steal a little bit from the Office dashboard in terms of having a header. That's fine. And then we'll say PDF's dashboards, just so I have a frame of reference for where I am. PDF's dashboard, cool. And we'll go to the next thing. Copy this and fill it with stuff. What do we want to fill it with? This is a, which one do we want to tackle first? But let's say the, I think I said that I was going to do the resource report. Might be an easy one. So we'll have to figure out what goes into the resource report and then build a form out of that. And that form, inside of that form, will be the function to actually build a PDF. And we'll return that as data, as just the raw PDF image in our response. And do that. So, yeah, I think that's what we want to do. We've got our resource report. I could probably give this better styling, but again, this is not, it's not important to get the styling really well done here. Really what we're after is generating a proper thing. So reports, URLs. The resource report takes a primary key of something, but I don't know what the primary key is. Let's go over to that view and find out. Resource. So there's an argument to say that we should make the resource report use exactly the same stuff that is in this user view. Because what is it going to have in it? Let's actually look at the resource report so you know what we're talking about. And it might actually prompt us to fill in more data because I have a sense that my current test account probably doesn't have a lot in it. So a resource report, if we click over here for Mark Lehman, okay, there's a little bit of stuff in here. So it's got, we could probably do a lot of the same thing. Say, so this is we've got the student in here. We've got the school year, or we've got the grade level and the school year. And then there's courses, and then there's all of the resources. That is the title of the resource and the details. This is all in keeping track of. So resources in School Desk, which is the name of my application, are intended to be like, what kind of books is your course using? If you're doing science, or do you have a biology book? If you're doing math, do you have an algebra book or a geometry book? That kind of stuff. So that's what is intended to be a resource. And it doesn't have to be a book. It could be any type of media, which is why it has this very generic name of resources. So I think what we need is a resource report per student. Is that what I want? That may be right. That may be the best thing. Because remember, this is about building like an end of year report of like what is everything that Mark did, or what is everything that Faye did. Those are the names of my kids, who I just happen to use as sample data in this test area. So I feel like this is it's still right to use the enrollment, just like that's here. So the question is, do I want to use the same context data? Like I could probably even go so far as to say, get I'm trying to think through this, what I want to do here. Because all of this logic is already here. That's the nice part about this. So if I'm recreating in a PDF, essentially what you see on this page, then the data has already been bundled up. And is there a way that I can package that into something that is useful in multiple places? Maybe this is an area where having this stuff be shoved in as into the view is perhaps, there's probably a signal here that this is something that shouldn't be. We could do this another way. So let's talk a moment about what are some things that I'm thinking through here. This is a class-based view. So getting this context data, there's an access control here that is important to stay. But this access control stuff is really only important for the user experience of this. Like me as an admin, and as the super admin, frankly, like I'm the only one using it, I don't really have this same constraint. Like I should just be able to say, give me the enrollment. That's all I care about. So what's important to me is not this particular check right here that is checking that does this user have access to this school. That's not relevant. What I need to be able to do is say, given a primary key or the ID to this enrollment, get all the data plus the student and the grade level and the school year with the select related call there. And then populate the context with all of that stuff. Because I think that, I believe WheezyPrint, the tool that I'm going to use, has a similar kind of rendering notion where you're feeding it the data. So you have a template, an HTML template, and you're going to give it context data. So that's going to be reusable. I think maybe this initial version, just to get going quickly, since I don't really have a good sense of where would I want to put this stuff, is perhaps to just even copy this. And then after I get a version working, then we can take a really close, careful eye at what's going on and see if we still are happy. All right, so we're going to need a form here. And the method ultimately will be a post. And we'll end the form. And the action, we don't want to post to this dashboard. We want to post to a different place. We'll have to fill that in a little bit later once we have a view. Yeah. So we need another route that I guess I can continue to put in the Office dashboard. That's probably okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. The other places I could, what I'm thinking through, just to talk it out, since that's what streaming is all about, is I could group these admin pages, this PDF report and the resource report and all of that stuff could go into like an admin namespace for URLs. And then I could include that into my Office dashboard. That's sounding pretty good, actually, because there's going to be a bunch of these. Like with the social image and the other stuff that was in that dashboard, they're kind of one-off things, but this will be a set of things. And I'm starting to feel like, so I put that URL in the Office dashboard, but I'm feeling like I don't actually like that. So let's go ahead and rectify that. Let's fix that, and then we'll come back and actually start to create some of these other views. So let's leave this alone for the moment. Let's go back to the Office dashboard, and we're going to, essentially what I'm going to ultimately do here is put a new namespace right here. All I'm going to do is change that to a colon, in fact. So if we go back to this page, it should blow up. Nope. If we go back to this page, it should blow up because it's not going to have this new namespace. All right, so let's go up to the reports app. And instead of having this URLs file, I'm going to create a new URLs file. We'll call this the admin URLs.py. And our admin URLs is going to have a name of PDFs. That's what we'll give it that extra namespace. So it'll be office : PDFs : and then whatever the view name is. And then like any other URLs file, we need URL patterns, and that'll be a list of the routes that we care about. And then from here, let's open up the office URLs. And we need Django path. That's going to stay the same. And then I also want to do what? I want to move this over to this other area. But now that we are in the same app, there's some other benefits that are coming out of this. I'm localizing where these views are so that I don't have to be cross-importing stuff. So what we are going to do instead is delete that stuff. So now we've got this shorter route here. And we'll create a new path instance. And it will be for the dashboard. That's going to be that page that has all of the PDFs that we want to build. And PDF's dashboard is the view that we want to use, and we want to give it the name of dashboard. We can give it the shorter name now because we have a new namespace here. Let's close that off like this. And then over on this side, we need to now come and use the include process. And instead of PDFs, we want to change this to include reports. I named that admin URLs. That's not what I meant to name that. Office URLs. We'll fix that in a second. So it's kind of showing that this is what contributes to my Django admin, which I've called Office. And give that the extra parenthesis there and delete this. Okay, now we're back to something that is what I want. And let's rename this file. I didn't mean to call it admin. I meant to call it Office. Okay. We'll leave this as PDF dashboards or PDF's dashboard. That's fine. This should now be okay. Try reloading this page, see if it works. Oh, bummer. No module name reports. What did I do? No. Oh. I know what I did. We need to put homeschool here. PDFs is not a registered namespace inside of Office. What? That's unexpected. Because Office URLs definitely has PDFs here. And I'm doing in the include. I would expect it to nest. I would expect it to be Office : PDFs and then this stuff. Mystery. There are other ways that we could do a namespace, I think, but I'm really surprised that this is not working. Oh. It's not just name. It's app name. Okay, all right. All is well with the world. I just got my dimensions a little messed up. So that's going to change the URL a little bit from what it was before. Now if you look at it, it's going to be Office Dashboard /PDFs/dashboard. So we're going to a different dashboard. We click it, it'll take us to that page that we were at before. The nice part is we don't have to touch the core application anymore. So all of these pages that we're adding are kind of embedded in this one little line, and then everything else is done in this reports app, which is a nice change. Okay, so next thing we want to do is go back to the reports URLs. Excuse me, reports views. And now the question is, do I want to have locality between the resource report view that is used by users and the resource report view that is used by the admin? I think I do. I think I'm kind of answering my own question. Like, there's a symmetry here. Like, you can see we've got the PDFs dashboard here and then the reports index page here. So I think I want that symmetry to kind of replicate for each of these views, so that as I'm working on them in the future, and this will be especially important if we factor out that common logic that's shared between the views, then it'll be really clear, oh, this is related to that. So we'll just call this one resource report. And otherwise it can be exactly the same, just for the moment. Put a new one on here and say resource. Sure. And then so we can stop importing in both places. Let's do this. Let's do import views as in the entire module. Then we've got this thing like this, and we can change this to views resource report, and then we'll use the name resource. Okay, so now we have we can put this in here. URL. This is going to be Office PDFs resource. And it's not going to take any parameters. We're going to have to get that out of the post data, because I want to be able to do this again without any of this control of like, who is this? DJ Berthamix, welcome. The good question. How do you generate an HTML page to PDF? We're gonna, when we get to that point, which I'm hoping to tonight, we are. Oh, Dennis Ivy, thanks, man. It's been a good microphone. I've got some good settings on OBS. No, you're all good. So I'm gonna use WheezyPrint. WheezyPrint is really, from what I've heard, I've not actually used it myself. It's really solid technology, but the idea is not to be, like if you go to your webpage and you can print anything from your browser, right? Chrome or Firefox, they've got pretty good tools that if you hit print, it can kind of make a PDF version of your page. WheezyPrint is not quite to that extreme. So it's not like they're taking a full browser engine and bundling it into some package, but they have enough HTML parsing to be able to produce solid stuff and convert HTML to PDF. So there's an API that we should walk through and see and be able to generate content from there. So that's the plan. So what I'm trying to get us to the point of having a place where we can add an ID and actually get a record. So like when we were looking at it a moment ago, and we had what was it? We had the report for this resource report here. Like the way that this happened was, if you can see in the URL, we've got an ID provided. It's a hash ID, but it's still an ID to the kind of data that we need to pull from the database in order to collect the student, the grade level, the school year, and then all of the courses and their related resources, all of that stuff that's in there. All that stuff that actually is listed right here in this context data. So we are working toward, what should this even do? Like, this can be so stripped down, it doesn't even need to render anything. Like really all it needs to be able to do is it's going to assume a post, and I could go, I guess, a little bit further, and I could add the decorator. There's a decorator called require post in Django, so that it will only respond to post requests. Again, this is admin kind of tooling, so like I'm going to wire this up appropriately and not mess this up, but it's maybe a safeguard. So actually, why don't we do a quick search for that and figure out where that is, just so that it'll stop yelling at me from an import perspective. And that was views, Django views, decorators, require post. Require post is a really cool one to know about. It's very simple for your function-based views, and make sure that the data that comes in will have a populated post dictionary because it was using the post HTTP method. All right, so we are going to do from there, we can go back to our template, and I can add in, what do we need to add in here? I mean, this can be really dumb, y'all. This is like no validation, none of the styling. Like, this is about as dumb of stuff as we can get. So I want an input. It's going to be a type of text, and the value, I don't even think we need to leave a value in there. Like, can we get away with this much? Am I missing something? Oh, it needs a name. It's going to have a name so that when we do submit it, it will be something stable that we can pull. And I'm going to name it the enrollment ID. And so if I go back to our dashboard, we might want a little bit of styling to, like, yeah, it doesn't even like show it. You can't even see it. That's not so good. So what can we provide there? I have got a generic include that I do when I have a proper form. I really don't want to make a Django form for this. That's like really overkill for the task. So maybe something dumb, like, oh gosh, can we get away with like a border? Can I just do this? I don't know. It might look crappy. Hey, look at that. There it is. So there's our first form. And then we need another input of type. Still getting used to this new keyboard. I've got keep messing up stuff. Type submit and value of generate. I don't know. Boom. Okay, this will work. So what's it going to do right now? Actually, since currently the view is like designed to render the page again, so we can test it out, but it's not going to do anything that we expect. Let's go over to the network tab. Let's put in some gobbledygook and hit generate. Oh, okay, missing something. So we do need a CSRF token. Okay. So that what that will do, if you've not seen that before, is it will generate a hidden input that will add the CSRF token that just does some validation on things for security reasons. So now if we generate again, you couldn't really see it, but if we look at the post, and this is where it just will look like nonsense, it's going to have the response will be this page again without the CSS applied, so it looks wonky, but there it is. It's the exact same page you're seeing already, re-rendered as the response to this post. Not important. Okay, so the next bit of what we want to do is actually do the response, right? This is where we start to hook up WheezyPrint. What we want to do ultimately is make it so that when this post happens, I don't want to do a redirect. I don't care about any of the like proper stuff for reloading things. I want to provide responses. So we're going to treat a post almost like a get. It's like really stupid, but it's going to be right for this context. So ultimately, we want to put in here an HTTP response, and it's going to be, I don't know, we can literally put in anything at the moment, and eventually we'll replace this with a PDF, and we'll set the content type so that the browser will recognize it. So this will give us the flow of I can give it a name of like resource report.pdf, and I can open it right there and see if it's on track. That's really the goal. Okay, so we've got our dumb view. That's all good. And we are now, I think, in a position to start building out the actual PDF report and figuring out where to put that and what to pass to it and all of that stuff. So what do we want that API to look like? This is where like the new and novel thinking comes. Because as a reminder, this is all about building a bundle ultimately. So the actual thing that we're working up towards, I think, is in this page. Yeah. So this is where we worked on this last stream. So we're already like planning to take a zip archive and put stuff in it. And this is where we're going to put the stuff eventually. So what we're really aiming to do is replace this write stir with some binary data from the PDF output. So if you think about it functionally, we need something that will take in the enrollment data that goes associated with the resource report, and that will include student, grade level. I've not used XML to PDF before. I've used Report Lab. I talked about like choices between libraries, and Report Lab is also equally, well, I can't speak to that comparatively, but Report Lab has similar challenges in terms of using it. Report Lab can produce some really nice stuff though. Going for way simpler here. But yeah, we can pass in all this data as a function, get back the binary data, and just stuff it in here. That's the goal. So we'll produce some binary data here, and we'll produce some binary data here, and then the difference is that this one's just going to pump the binary data right into an HTTP response with the content type of whatever the PDF content type is, which I don't even know. In fact, why don't we go ahead and look that up? Because we could play with this, and if the browser sees that it's a PDF content type, I want the experience on my tools to be hit the generate button and get a download prompt. That's what I'm going for. So what is this? MIME type for what? PDF. Application PDF. Okay. And I think we said the way to set that in Django. Oh, what is it? We used it up here. We have to set a content type. There it is. All right, we're going to have to set, similarly to this, we need to set a couple of headers. So we're not going to use the content type. If you look at an HTTP response, there's a way to set a content type directly. So like if you weren't using JSON response for some reason, you could just set the content type keyword argument. But since we also need to set the file name of the thing that we want to return, it's easier in this case to just use the headers keyword arg directly. So we'll drop that there. We'll ditch that, and then we'll close this off like so. Oh man, Python is really pissed at me because it doesn't like the spacing. Oh, I see what's missing. Missing a comma. I don't care about setting a specific file name, so we can just give it a file name that we want. So let's just generically call this resource report PDF. And I am amazed that that fits with Black's rules. So let's try it. Let's see what happens. The PDF content itself will be junk because OK is not a valid PDF, but it should be enough to test out this page. We can clear this, hit generate. Let's see what does it go. Hey, cool. We got a resource report. It's claiming it's a zip archive. That's wrong. PDF. So we're getting close, but still not quite right. Try it again. All right, resource report claims it's a PDF of 2 bytes, which O and K are the 2 bytes, but that's not correct. But this is where we could like now open this in preview or save it and do whatever. So cool. I think that's what we want. And yeah, I'm gonna get IDs from somewhere else. So I'll be able to copy this ID. The flow will be something like this. I'll go over, get an ID, plop it in here, hit generate. And it's actually nice in this regard that not doing the redirect, I'm leaving this in place. So if I need to go through this cycle of I want to test this over and over again, I can just hit generate again. And it's going to a different view. It's giving me the response. You can hopefully start to see the benefit of how we can cycle through this quickly. Okay, now what? Now we need to start the WheezyPrint interface. How do we want to do that? Where do we want to put that? It's a good question. Well, we don't need the URLs for the moment. We'll close all that. Let's go up a directory and think about this. The most natural thing that's occurring to me is just to call something PDFs. It's pretty logical. Like you have a function, get some PDFs back, all good. So I'm gonna go with that. And if we come up with a better name later or a more appropriate name, super. So what should go into our function, and what should be the return type? Well, the return type should be bytes. For the moment, I think the simplest thing that I could just call this is to make it action oriented. We'll say build, make, I don't know. I'm not sure that it matters. Make's a little bit shorter. Make resource report. And the report itself cares about certain things and doesn't care about other things. And I'm wondering, is it better to enumerate the pieces of data that it cares about or pass it in as a big bundle? And let's compare what I mean by that. So in this view that's in the current resource report, we get this enrollment object. And this enrollment object is just a container for all sorts of homeschool data that's needed. And then we pull out of that thing a bunch of associated foreign keys, like all of these different attributes. But notice what's actually going into the context. It's the grade level, the school year, the student, the actual resources, the courses associated with those resources. And so I think that's where it might just be better to pass in these kind of things individually. So let's pass in the student, because all of these reports are centered around a student. So that's something important that I want to grab. And then the rest of this, I don't know. I don't know that the order matters so much. But grade level is more specific, and then school year is the least specific thing and least important of this whole process. And probably maybe the most important thing is the resources themselves, which will be a list. And then I want the type I don't have to put this, but the type is going to be, I want to signal to myself that this is going to be bytes. That's what we're looking for out the other side, I think. There's a chance that WheezyPrint does not return bytes, but yeah, I think this is what we want. I think that's the interface. Let's give it a docstring. Make a resource report for the given student, and return raw PDF data. Something like that. All right, earlier I said that what I want to do is actually copy what's here. I think we're going to take all of this stuff and just straight up copy it. Put it like this. In a moment, this is not a good practice, just to be really clear. Like, this is not something you want to do long term. This is a stepping stone for the final outcome. Like, I'm trying to build up the interface, and then once we have a basic working version that generates some PDF, then I will come back and clean up the data, and it's very clear that both the report that's generated on the web version and this report that will be part of the PDF, they're extremely common, and so then we can make them use a common helper of some kind. So if I save this, it doesn't know what the user is. That's not a surprise, but we don't need to do that filtering for this resource report because I am the super user, so I can look at anything I want. With great power comes great responsibility, right? The other aspect here is I am going to just pull this straight out of the post data. So we're going to replace this PK with, well, let's give it a local variable, because eventually I might, if we are going to refactor this thing, we might want to have a common name there. So we'll say enrollment ID is the bit that we want to pull out of here. And that's going to be request, post, and enrollment ID. Then we can change this here. Okay, so maybe you noticed PK versus ID. Maybe you didn't. What's the difference? The ID is the default identifier that's given to a Django model. So if you create a new model in Django, you're going to get an ID field. And that will be a big int, something like that. Something that will auto-increment whenever you create a new instance, and you can access it through ID. But you also have this PK attribute, and PK stands for primary key. And I believe that the primary key can be something else that doesn't have to be the ID. Most often they are the same. So I'm using PK here because I was using a view that is dependent on this. Man with opinions, welcome to all of you who are joining in. We're working on some PDF reports. Not accustomed to many raids, to be honest, but you're welcome to chat, ask me anything about Python, Django, web development. That's what I'm here for. We're currently looking at how to build a PDF report using WheezyPrint. So anyway, getting back to this ID versus PK thing. What text editor is that? All right, cool. This is Vim, and I apologize. Some of you will probably note that it is very bright, and it is not dark themed. I get probably harangued by this many times, and yeah, I tried a dark theme for a long time. Stealth Giraffe, welcome. Hello to you too. And so I use Vim, and I put a lot of plugins in Vim. I've been using Vim since 2006. Getting old. You see a little white here. So I've just stuck with one text editor for a long time and have developed a lot of skills with it. Yeah, Vim for the win, for sure. So we've got our IDs here, and we've got all this data. Do I have my Vim? Yep. Let's detour. My dot files are on a predictable place. Check them out. Yeah, I recently, yep, okay, fair. I recently switched to NeoVim because I started a project with Lua, and NeoVim has excellent support for Lua because they made the choice to use Lua as like instead of Vim script. So if you go down the Vim NeoVim rabbit hole, NeoVim is doing their configuration of the editor using the Lua language, and as a side project, I'm building a Lua web framework, and so I wanted language server support that comes with NeoVim just kind of built in. So that's the story with like why NeoVim. I was also having some issues with Vim. I don't know if it was brew related on my Mac or something else. I'm not really sure. So you can check out the stuff there. I think there's some good plugin choices in my Vim RC if you're into Vim. But I won't delve too deep into that right now. All right, so we've got our data, and I could probably follow you, Priya. I don't pay too much attention to followers on GitHub, but you know, if that makes you happy, sure, why not? So let's take out some of this context stuff. Like a lot of this is stuff we're going to pass into this new helper method that we have. So we don't need a bunch of this, but we do want the variable names that they represent. So I believe this also allows us to get rid of this context dictionary. And now we're at a point, okay, now we're at a point where we can put something in here. We can I can return some raw bytes. Hello. And we want to wire this all the way through. So let's call this PDF data. And we want to do PDFs, resource report, make resource report. We want to pass in the resources, pass in student, grade level, and school year. Is that going to be all of it? And I guess I should add, for those of you joining for the first time, appreciate you taking a few minutes to join in. I'm building a homeschool application. That's the context of all this stuff. It's like an end of the year school report of, you know, your kids have gone through a year of school, if you had kids, and you need to prove to your local government that, like, okay, did I actually educate my children? We homeschool at my house. I've got 2 kids. That's what this is all about. So that's what we're actually building. We've got an analogous view that is this like HTML version of this. I don't have enough test data in this account for this report to be impressive, but we need to essentially replicate this as a PDF. And that's the whole goal of what we're doing here. So we need to bring in, we need to do a couple things. We need to set the PDF data as the thing that we want to return in our Django response. And then we need to import this local PDFs module that we just created that does nothing. And so we'll say from.import PDFs. So now we should be at a state where we should be able to go back to our page that is in this like admin tooling section. That's why it looks terrible, in case you're like, what the heck is this guy doing? This is just for me, so that I can test out PDFs. So if we click this, now we should get like 5 bytes. Yep, 5 bytes for hello. So we've wired everything together. The function isn't doing anything, but I think we're finally ready to start actually using WheezyPrint to do what we need to do. And this is where I am going to journey off with you into unknown territory. I've not used WheezyPrint before. I've done other PDF libraries. I've used Report Lab, as I mentioned earlier to Dennis. And I have some experience with some of this stuff, and I can certainly do HTML, which is what WheezyPrint is all about, but I don't really know how to use it. We'll struggle together. WheezyPrint. Am I spelling that right? Must be spelling it wrong. Ah, it's with an S. So the idea behind WheezyPrint, if you've never used it, is build an HTML template and then pass it to WheezyPrint. WheezyPrint transforms that HTML into PDF. So I already set up my environment to have all of the necessary libraries there's some C libraries that are required to make WheezyPrint work. I've installed the same stuff in where my application is deployed in Heroku. So that is all working as well. Of course, I'm not exposing this functionality to my users right away. So once I build this report, I should be able to merge this stuff, keep it in this dashboard area, do a deployment, and actually go click a button and see if it's actually working the way I expect it to. So what we need to do is the real deal, the work. I think we're here. So I'm going to stare at this for a little while. And my goal number one probably is to get the structure roughly right, to get it comparable to this report. Because I know as a starting place, this is something that my spouse, who happens to be my primary customer, she helped me build this report in terms of what she needed in there. And so I know that if I at least start here, it's going to be a good enough kind of starting point. There are flourishes that I can put on there. I'm sure there's like ways to add a header that might say, hey, this is from School Desk, which is the name of the application, or this is generated at such and such a time. Like there's probably other elements that are going to be additional requirements that you would need for a PDF generation. But I want to get the basics in there first. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out what do we actually need to provide for this thing and see how we can get the content out and what we can do about it. I also want to be very minimal in styling here. My goal is not to make something crazy complicated. So it looks like you can build this from a URL or from a file or from a file object. So I think what we're actually going to do is this variant right here, where we build this using Django's template system and render it as in the style that I want, and then pass that in as the string, and then pass the string version off to WheezyPrint to actually do the building. And then it looks like wiring it all together, they say what? Write PDF. There's got to be a way to not write it to a file. Not doing that. I know I saw it in here in the documentation somewhere. I think it can take, there it is. If you pass a file name or a file object, that's important. So we're going to use string IO to write it to a file object at this point right here. In fact, maybe that's the starting point. Before we even render anything, let's see if we can just produce a PDF that does something using the APIs. And then, gosh, there's all sorts of stuff here, like font configuration. I don't know what that means. There's so much to learn here. But step number one, get the most basic stuff. Okay. So we're going to come down here, and all of our PDF-related logic is going to be in here. I don't want to leak PDF logic out to the views file. It's nothing to do with views, so it shouldn't have any of that business. So WheezyPrint imports should stay isolated to this location. So we'll say from WheezyPrint import HTML, I think was the first thing that we had to do. Now, we needed to create an HTML object. So this is HTML is equal to HTML with a string was the keyword. And we'll say hello world, because why not? All right, we're going to need string IO. from the standard library. So from IO import, I think it'll be string IO. It might be bytes IO. I'm not sure. I don't know if we need to write this out as binary or if Django will handle that for us. Don't really know. So we might be playing with this IO object a little bit later, but this is fine for now. And so we start by saying, well, I guess we don't need that above. So we'll say HTML write PDF, and we're going to pass it a string IO object. So let's create a string IO object. And if y'all aren't familiar with string IO, it's a way to get access to Python's file interface, but keeping all of that data in memory. So it's never actually interacting with the file system. It's essentially just using a string buffer internally in Python, but giving you something that responds to the file object interface. So anything that expects a file, you can do that. And then when you want to get the data out, so if you're trying to like write to a file or something, you can do string io.write, and it will write it just as if you had a file object. And when you finally want to aggregate that data, you say the object io.getValue, and that's how you get all the content out. So pass in io, and we'll pass in, that's it. Initially, I think that's it. I don't think we even need a style sheet yet. So it should write, with any luck, if we did this right, it's going to take the hello world string here, write it to the PDF, and then we'll get something out. So we'll take this and do io get value is the way to finish this off. And MyPy is yelling at me because I told it was going to be bytes, but it's not at the moment because string io turns string. And the last error here is I've got my MyPy configuration, so we need to do one more change. My WheezyPrint apparently does not have type hints, so we need to add this to the list of things to ignore for MyPy. WheezyPrint. Okay, cool. So let's see what it did. And let's see if this process works the way we want it to. Oh, bummer. String arguments expected got bytes. Womp womp. I guess that answers that question about what WheezyPrint wants. It wants a bytes object. No problem. We can do that. So we can say, we can change this to, should be able to change this to bytes IO. Notice how MyPy immediately is like, hey, wait a minute. You said you wanted string. So we change this to a bytes IO. So now we're dealing with bytes. And the difference between bytes and str has to do with, like, you can think of bytes as raw data, and string is like transforming and changing. It's like what is it? The process is, I always gotta think about this. Is it encoding or decoding? It's decoding the binary data into Unicode. You know what that means? Good for you. If you don't worry about it for now. It's not important. So let's see if we can go back to the previous page. Oh, bummer. Come on. Yeah, I might get that backwards to myself. That's why I wasn't thinking super hard about it. It's string data is Unicode points, and you encode that into binary. So string data is decoded data, right? Decoded to Unicode. Did I get that right? Keep me honest, Pereira. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your user handle. Let's go back and get this ID. Try again. Okay, so this is looking really promising. 13.7 kilobytes is way bigger than Hello World. So I'm guessing there's all sorts of the PDF header, that stuff that goes into the envelope, if you will, of what makes a PDF file a PDF. And let's see what happens here. Can I just gonna open in a new tab? Awesome, look at that, that's amazing. It doesn't seem that amazing, but it's amazing to me. I want to get this thing right now on the encoding decoding thing, because I don't want to mislead y'all. Python string encode? Oh, so you're right, that is pretty slick. I agree. Definitely agree. It's cool. I love that Python. I don't know where I'm clicking here. I'm just gonna pick a random one. That Python gives you all these like superpowers that, somebody else made this library and figured out all of the PDF stuff that I didn't have to think about. That's amazing. Yeah, okay, so this makes sense to me. So if you have a Unicode string, you need to turn it into something that is encoded into binary data. So you transform a Unicode string and you encode it, and it creates the binary data. So that's the process of going string to bytes is encoding. And then the reverse is you want to decode. It is binary data, and you want it to be, so you want to go from the Unicode emoji point, like whatever the number multi-byte string, multi-byte value is, you want to go to the emoji character that you recognize, the smiley face, and that is decoding. So binary to string is decoding. So a good question though, Parir. Like it is definitely one, like almost every time I think about it, and I've been thinking about string versus bytes for a really long time, because I had to deal with the Python 2 to 3 transition, and I still mess it up. So very, very common thing to like get wrapped around the axle on. Yeah, Ryan, I'm just looking at your comment now. Oh, cool. That's all. It's so satisfying. Like, and your users get the benefit of like. That's part of what I love about SaaS is like I actually got contacted by some of my customers, and they're asking me like, well, could you add this or can I do this? And that is really gratifying to know that like the rest of the tool is working for them. That it's like really powering for me. In my case, my customers are making their homeschool run, and it's pretty satisfying knowing that like I'm helping more than just my family. Anyway, that's the cool part about building SaaS is like when you actually are helping your customers and doing something worthwhile in the world. It's really gratifying. Okay, time for phase 2 of our little project here. We need what? We need, I think I'm seeing some, check this out. We've got, I just said earlier that we're going to take this string content, and how are we going to get it? We're going to render, right? We're going to use the Django template engine to render. Well, what does render need? It needs context. So even though I just like created this interface that has resources, student, grade level, school year, the truth is I'm going to like package that up in the same stuff. And so the question that I want to ask, that I'm not really sure yet, I'm not sold one way or the other, just to be clear, is this context, like I've got a render here that goes into this resource report, which is intended for HTML. And if I take the same exact context information and just pick a different template, then maybe I win. And maybe that what should really be passed in here is not this split out thing, but really the exact same context that is provided up here. I could be cool with that. So I think that's what I want to do. I think I want to, like, even though I earlier like cleaned this up so that I got the individual things and then passed all those things in, I think I want to change my story. So let's clean this out again. That part's a bummer, but that's okay. And it will make this easier to copy too later, or refactor to something common later, I should say. Let's go here and take all of this, and we're going to have the same enrollment as before, but we're going to delete this line and change this. Just yank this from above. I recognize that I'm duplicating work, sorry. And then delete all of this stuff. And now we can take all of this and we can just pass this in as context. Now, what's the downside of this approach? The downside is that it lost the explicitness. This interface is way less clear. If we get rid of all this stuff and we just say context, then okay, well now it's a bit of a mystery, especially because we won't know what needs to be used until we pass it on to the template, right? And even then, the template rendering, the Django template engine is extremely, to a fault maybe, forgiving if you exclude some data. So if you are like missing a variable in the context, unless you're accessing something on that variable and it will cause the rendering engine to blow up, it'll just like put an empty value or put null or whatever. And so there's a danger there. So what we're going to have to do later, I don't know if I'm going to get to it tonight, is actually write tests. And those tests will help ensure that the context that I pass in here matches the interface that I expect, or the data contract, maybe is a more accurate way to say it. Of like, and then I think I should list them out. So good question. Is it a good case for named tuple or something? I don't know. Let me think on that for a minute. Are you thinking like a named tuple that behaves like a context, like a resource report context, as a data class that you could build? Yeah, that's interesting. I say that's interesting because I like the idea. It's a really interesting case, but I don't know if the template engine will accept something that's not a dictionary. Or maybe, does data class have like a toDict kind of attribute? Python data classes. Because if we could make a context that is like typed, then we get at a I'm drawing a blank on the word. Type level. We get a type static analysis. There's the word. The static analysis of it would be something that MyPy could inspect, saying like, okay, you've got the right context, you've built up the right thing. And it would be a data class, so it would expect all of the right parameters as input there. And then as long as we pass that context onto the view, that could be good. So let's check that out. I want to say that there is some ability to take a data class and get a dictionary out of it, but we should check. But I'm definitely up for trying it because it sounds fun. And it would be something that I've never done with Django before, because this is kind of a new territory for me. I've not really had to have a split purpose of I want to render something that is logically this equivalent in two different places. There's asdict. That sounds like it. If I was the thing to be, I think I would call it asdict. All right, let's try it. So where are we going to put it, though? I guess is the question. because I need to be able to use it both here, because I want to add the typing information, and I want to be able to use it in the views. So I don't want to have like, I don't want to create a cycle. And so I think we need like a third module. Yeah, where to put the data. Yep, that is the challenge. I'm okay with this though. Let's try this. Good names are hard to come by. I gotta do types. Yuck. Be really explicit. Context. Definitions. I don't like that at all. Context. You know what? This is the beautiful part about this. Is like, if I get this wrong, I can change that in the future. And this is like the one place that it'll be. Like PDFs won't be. This is not something that I will be importing all over the place. This will be pretty isolated to here. So I'm going to call this context for now. I'm not crazy about the name, but I don't want to like camp on that name for as long as I've been thinking about it. So let's do data classes. From data classes, import data class, I think. Is that right? I think so. Yep. And then we can say data class. And this is going to be what? This will be, it needs to be a class, not a function. This will be the resource report context. Let's just be super explicit. And we need to take, what did I say we need to take? I kind of killed the view, so we need to go back there. We needed 4 things, right? We need grade level. They all stem from enrollment, but that's okay. We need the grade level. This is also where it's going to get interesting, is like, this is an instance of a grade level. We'll have model instances in here. So I'm curious to how this we might fall flat on our face with this approach, but we'll try it because it just seems fun. So we want grade level, we want school year. We want the student. It's one of the most important elements of this. And we want the, this is going to be a list of course resources. I don't know how that will play. And am I on a version of Python where I can do this? I'm used to having to do typing with a capital L for list, because I'm on an older version of Python at work. But I think I can get away with this. Okay. Now for the downside. We got to import from all over the world. From homeschool, schools, models, import, school year. One down. Where is grade level? Oh boy. Grade level. Schools. Grade level. And then homeschool students, models, import student. And finally, homeschool courses, models, import course resource. Okay, cool. Now, oh, what does it not like? Data classes, not date classes. That seems kind of cool. And I'm gonna just mess with it in here for the moment, and if it works, refactor this to use it too. There's some other elements of this is like, junk. No, we still got this. The problem is that there's a context dictionary here too. So we're gonna have to like merge the two together, but that's fine. So now I can add to this, I can say this is the resource report context, and that's very explicit of what am I really bringing in. Neat. I like it. Appreciate the suggestion, Osoda. Okay, I think we're done with this file for the moment. Now the question is, do I have an import cycle? Does it still load? All right, the app seems to still load, so we haven't created a cycle. That's good. And we're gonna come down to, I'm sure it's still yelling at me here. Yep. So now we want to create this context, which is now going to be what? It's going to be equal to the resource report context, and we want to pass it in the, I guess, resources. Well, how do I build this in a clean way? Here's the resources, because the problem is the resources are a pretty big query. Let's put this below here, and let's say, I don't know that a data class needs the keyword args, but can we go without, or does it have to be ordered? You can see my complete like ignorance of data classes. I don't use them enough. I think we could do, I think the order you list them here is the order that they will be in the init. So if we do this, we should be able to do enrollment student, and then enrollment grade level, and enrollment grade, oh my word, grade level school year. And then we can ditch these three things. Now, this is already starting to clean stuff up in a nice way. I like it. And then come down to this and say from context import resource report context. Cool. And then what we pass to render, we can call as dict on it whenever we do end up using it here. So let's close that for the moment and move on to the next little bit. I think let's make a dumb template that is just spitting out little bits of data and see if we actually have wired things up properly. So what is that going to look like? We're going to want to use render to string rather than the render shortcut. I think render to string, I believe, is another shortcut. It's in the, I think it's in the same package. Django render to string. Oh, that's not the definition spot. What? It's in the loader? That's really low level. Come on now. No way. Bummer. Okay, well, that's fine. Sometimes you have to take advantage of lower level APIs, or the APIs that are in lower level namespaces. So let's do this. We want from Django template loader, I think it said, import render to string. All right. Django template loader render to string. Yep. And then we'll call this rendered and call render to string. And here's where we're going to use reports, resource, report. The difference I'll do on this is I'll add a PDF to it. Otherwise, it'll be very similar to the other one. And we want to say context as dict. I think that's what we're after. And then we'll replace hello world with rendered. What? Oh, as dist. Nope. As dict. No way. Come on now. You're definitely a data class, right? You should have. What's going on? Come on, MyPy. Am I messing this up? Data classes. Data class. As dict. Is this a class method? Oh, would you look at that? Okay, I thought it was a method on the data class itself, but I guess they wanted to avoid a namespace conflict. All right, you got me. So from here, we, I guess, need to then bring in from data classes, import as dict, and then drop as dict. Oops. And like that. Cool. Looks pretty clean. There's part of me that wonders, like, should I do this as dict as function there, or add data classes dot as dict? Not sure. That's okay. I'll leave it for now. Okay. So if we tried this right now, it'd blow up in our face because this template file doesn't exist. Let's go to the resource report template and create a new file. Now here's where I want to be dumb for the moment. The context that student should be in there. So let's just like we had hello world a moment ago, let's drop in as if the context is there, because it should be, and access some attribute. It's a good test to me. This is now end-to-end testing through the rendering engine, the new context thing that we created, all sorts of stuff. Let's try it. Let's get rid of hello world. We've got our new thing. It's opening. It's somehow smaller Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. My the first name here should be Mark. We should open this up and see Mark. Mark, awesome. It's very satisfying. Okay, so now what should we do? Should we? Trying to decide. I'm trying to decide which direction I want to go. Do I want to spend a little bit of time like refactoring that other HTML view, or do I want to keep going on this template? Because the actual like the creation of this template is maybe not very exciting. Although we haven't done any styling, we haven't done anything like that. So there's some interesting stuff there. We've got something really basic at the moment. So like if we wanted to get differentiation, yeah, all right, let's do, okay. I'm convincing myself, let's spend a little bit of time just on seeing how much of this report we could actually do. So I'm going to follow suit with what's here. And So there's an empty state in this report, which I don't know that I want to represent. We can probably, we might actually do that checking in the report itself, in that report function, so that it doesn't go to the template. This is cool. We got the resources are using the regroup template tag. This is a really neat one. Regroup like does some shenanigans in a really good way. Let's see. I don't know. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly how it works. Template tags. But I remember it being cool. I remember doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Yeah. Okay. So my my query that you saw that looked at the course resources. It just said, give me all of the course resources associated with this particular grade level. So grade level has many courses, and they can kind of like collect them all from that set of courses. But this regroup thing takes it and then like does exactly what you see here. So if you had it in one flat list, you can kind of make it a two-leveled list like they're doing here by regrouping on some particular attribute. In this case, in this example, it's regrouping on the country, like grouping on India and USA, and you can kind of see how that the output of that. So in my template example, what I've got is I'm regrouping the resources by the course. So I'm taking all the resources and bundling them together and getting this this nested list thing. So the course list does the regrouping and gives you a set of tuples, and the tuples have the first element is the course, the thing you grouped by, and the second element is the list of the overarching thing, which in this case is a sub list of resources. Probably should have picked maybe a slightly different name here, but it worked. So you can see that the effect of this is that we can get the same kind of structure. Okay, so the challenge is like there's the odds of Tailwind CSS working in WheezyPrint is, I think, probably close to 0. I can't imagine that WheezyPrint has that kind of level of support, so we might have to like switch this to tables or something like that. I don't really know, but I'm going to just take this blindly right now as if this will just work. So let's do this. Let's put in. Let's see how far it gets and on how off it looks once I'm done. So we know in this case that there's going to be resources. So we can take all of this content in here and plop it right there. And notice I'm not even paying attention to the markup around it. There's probably like WheezyPrint might want me to put HTML tags and head tags and I don't know, body. Like I'm not doing any of that stuff, which is maybe bad of me, but I'm not currently doing that. So do I have the matching for loops. Like there's the N4. There is, I think this is the N4 for the outer one. I think that's what we want. Do those not line up? I bet I just pasted weird. Okay. So let's see what this produces. I think it would be hilarious if this just produced like something so close to exactly what I wanted. We could just ship it. I doubt it, but we'll see. Definitely got more data in here. Dang, that's cool. All right, so there's definitely some stuff that's off. Like, I think what's evident, well, what's evident is we have not hooked any CSS in here. Do I want to try? I don't know about that. The Tailwind's really cool. Tailwind will take your file and or all of the CSS attributes that you're using, and it will create a minimal bundle of here are all the classes that you've used. And so it'll give you a small set of CSS. And so in theory, like we could pass off that CSS into this tool, and it might be smart enough to render Flexbox properly. And if we hooked it up right, that might be worth it. How well is that going to work in practice? I don't know. So should we try it? Because here's the other problem. The way I'm using Tailwind at the moment, one of my items on my list is to upgrade to Tailwind version 3. With Tailwind version 3, there's a really sizable change. And that change is that essentially when you're working with Tailwind, you kind of leave a process running all the time, and it's doing this just-in-time compilation of your CSS file kind of in the background. So you're always, even when you're doing development mode, getting a minimal file. In contrast, though, right now, since I'm on Tailwind 2, actually, let's just leave that running. If we were to reload this page, the network tab, what you'll see, if I can get that stuff out of the way, is this monster. So maybe you didn't see it, or you can kind of see it there. Let me get this junk out of the way. With V2 of Tailwind, every single class attribute that's available to Tailwind in this mode that I'm doing a not optimized Tailwind build. So it's including every class in there. And my guess is that if I tried to take this Tailwind file and feed it to WheezyPrint, what did WheezyPrint say? It had this like CSS thing that you could feed as a string. So we could take all this content, load in the nearly 5 megabytes of CSS, and try and pump it into here. My guess is WheezyPrint would fall over very quickly because of that. So I think what I'm tempted to do, because I like the idea of continuing to use Tailwind, that would be amazing if I could get Tailwind styling in my WheezyPrint stuff. But I think what I might need to do in order to make that happen is go ahead and upgrade to Tailwind V3, and then upgrade my development processes to use this new tool so that it's constantly giving me this optimized CSS file for local development. But when you're working in Django, you can ask Django for a static file that is in your static file system. So the way that I build Tailwind is in my deployment pipeline right now. Before the Django Python processing happens, the Tailwind tool runs and builds the CSS file, and it puts it in a place where it will be picked up by the collect static process. So all of my static attributes that Django knows how to fetch and retrieve, through collect static are configured, and Tailwind is slurped up in that process. So I need to be able to, so that gives me access to Tailwind and that site CSS as a static thing. You can see it right here. And so something you can do in Django is if you're in like some other portion of code, like this PDF area, you can say, hey, static file system, give me the site CSS. You give it the same identifier, the same file name, and it knows how to do that. So that might be the way to go about adding CSS into my Wheezy print. But again, I need this to, before this is reasonable, or for this to be reasonable, I need to get the site CSS down to a normal size. So I don't think I want to pursue setting the stuff there. So where have we landed so far, I guess? We've got something that is shockingly good already. Like all the content's clearly there. We're leaning on the context from the earlier thing. That's cool. So what is it that we really still need here? I think let's do this in a couple more steps maybe. And then I need to wrap up for the evening probably, because we've been going for quite a while. Hopefully you found this informative. If you have, give me a follow here on Twitch. I also post this content to YouTube later, so if you want to go back and check on something that you missed, I know that there's some people that rated. You're welcome to go check out stuff. I'm Matt Lehman on YouTube, and all of my streams go up there, so I've got plenty of content to teach you about Django, and you can see this process from its inception if you're really interested. So what can we put into this final view of things? Like, building this way is sort of annoying, like where I know that I need a student grade level in school year. It kind of, and especially because I know that I'm going to have to do something similar in this view. So maybe there is a class method that we could build into the data class that could say, like a factory method. And so we could do something like resource report context dot from enrollment, and then pass it the enrollment and the resources. And then it could do this little bit of wiring, and that would clean that up a little bit. That would be one step. Yeah, that feels probably about as far as I want to take that. And then we could use the same thing down here. And then the only difference that we'd have to do is we'd have to merge some context here. That feels kind of good. Let's finish the thing with that little bit of refactoring to call it before calling it a night. Let's go to the context file that we had. No, it's not I haven't added it to version control yet, so it's not over there. And then we'll say this will be a class method. From enrollment, and we'll pass in, well, we'll take the class as the first argument, take the enrollment, and take the resources. And we're just cleaning up some of that construction stuff that you see on the right side there. And we want to return the class where it takes all of those little bits. What happens if I ditch that last comma? Nope. Sort of bundled those together. And then we can say from enrollment, and now we pass in the enrollment and the resources. And delete all that stuff. there's also part of me that says like, well, maybe we should move this query. Like it's always going to be the same. And we always know that we want when the resource report context is going to render in such a way that it's going to want the course too. So, okay, let's do this. Another step to simplify. And it was weird that I was making this class method and then saying from enrollment and then asking for two things. That's strange. So let's take this little chunk here and put it right there. I think that's all we need. Delete to there. Yeah, cool. Oh, even better. So now this is starting to read in a way that I really dig. Because what's important, think about this, what's important for this thing is that we want to build the report, but we don't care about the access control. But you still need to like get an enrollment. So we have to get the enrollment no matter what. And down here, we want to get the enrollment, but we care about the access control. But all this other garbage about context is just like extra information that is getting built into there, which seems weird. So having this one-liner seems really nice to me. I don't know how you all feel about it, but I like it. Let's do a quick check to make sure it still works and that I didn't bust it when I created this new class method. I haven't tested any of this stuff yet. Oops. Shoot. Yep. I see. This is where a unit test would help, but I don't have that yet. Okay. All right. I'm pretty convinced. Cool. It worked. Neat. Now I do have tests for this resource report view, so we can actually use that we can refactor this and then run the test for this part. That's going to be a nice little thing to have. So reports, test views, and then the resource, maybe to the bottom, I think. So this thing still is the resource report. It's got some unit tests that can run this in an automated way. And so we can run that. And it does some assertions on the context. So we're guaranteeing that we're going to keep the interface stable for what the context expects for the HTML template. That's going to be really important because now I'm serving like two purposes with this context thing. So it's important that whatever tests I write, they both have to enforce this contract that says like, hey, I need this data, and you can't just delete it willy-nilly from one and not expect to impact the other. So now we can do, oh man, I really like this is how this is coming out. Boysoda, I don't know if you're still here, but I greatly appreciate the suggestion. I think it was awesome. Nice work. Resource report context. It's a little lengthy here, but that's okay. And then we delete all this junk. And then we can do this. We can say, last thing to do before returning the context is to say context update as dict, which we need to import, resource report context. And then from, oh, cool, kill and import too. So good. From data classes, import as dict. And go back to where we were. Test that out. Run our tests. Remember, this is the code that's actually live, and like I don't want to blow up something for the users. Hey, the test still proved that it works. And just as a sanity check, because we're here and it's trivial to do, go over here, go to the reports area, click the resource report. It should be exactly what we saw earlier. Awesome. All right. I feel good about where this is all landing. We haven't written any tests though. That's not so great. I don't expect to write a lot of tests for my kind of admin area code, but there should be something there. And we also definitely do need to start testing the make resource report function that is going to be used later by the bundle. That should be tested in isolation so that when we get time to like actually wire it into the bundle, we just trust that it's building the proper report. So I'm not going to do that though. It's we're already 2 hours in the stream and I don't have any more energy to write tests. But I think I'm pretty happy with where things are going, and I feel like we've set the difference for like there are 3 more reports to make after this. But what we've done with this stream is we've set the bones for like to do that. I think we've tried to think pretty hard, and I appreciate the suggestions from y'all about where places to put things to like separate this properly so that what we're left with, we're starting to get these views the views are simpler. They have to do less. They build context in a clean way to like specify the type information that's needed, and just generally getting something that is coming pretty clean out the other side. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's where I'm going to call it for the evening, and just want to thank you all for joining in. This content always gets posted to YouTube, so right after I'm done, I hit the export button, and it takes a little while, and I got to process it over the night and add some little metadata attributes. But you can go to YouTube, check it out. If you are over on YouTube and you're checking something out, please give me a subscribe over there. I really appreciate it. If you're learning stuff and you have continued to learn something and you feel like contributing in some way, a lot of the setups that I'm starting to add and the future streams will start moving into the actual software and making the stream experience better. But the hardware and things that I've benefited from, like the new mic stand, is all coming from you. And so I pour a lot of this money right back into this stream to improve the quality for y'all. So thank you for your contributions. And if you'd like to give, you can at patreon.com/mblayman. Anyway, that's it for me this evening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.